Hey friends, welcome. Today I want to start by asking a simple yet profound question. How does one life leave a legacy so powerful that it transcends time, cultures, and even religions? Well, that's the story of Jesus Christ. And for many of us, we think of Jesus through the lens of the Bible. His miracles, his teachings, and ultimately his sacrifice. But did you know that Jesus' existence and influence are acknowledged far beyond the pages of Scripture? His story appears in historical accounts, secular writings, and even in the traditions of other religions. Today, we're going to explore where Jesus is mentioned outside the Bible. These sources often offer not only evidence of his life, but also a glimpse into how deeply his presence impacted the world, even for those who didn't follow him. And as we reflect on this together, I hope you'll see that the life of Jesus isn't just a story. It's an invitation to think about how we can leave a meaningful legacy in our own lives. So let's take this journey together, okay? You ready? Let's start with Romans. Now, it's important to understand that the Romans were not exactly sympathetic to Christianity, especially in its early years. Yet, their own historians couldn't avoid writing about Jesus and his followers. Two of the most notable names are Tacitus and Suetonius. Tacitus, a Roman senator and historian, wrote about Christians in his Annals around 116 AD. He described how Emperor Nero blamed Christians for the Great Fire of Rome. In doing so, he mentioned their founder, Christus, who was executed under Pontius Pilate during the reign of Emperor Tiberius. Think about the significance of that. Tacitus wasn't a Christian. He had no reason to promote Jesus or his teachings. Yet, he confirmed a key detail from the Gospels: Jesus' crucifixion under Pilate. He even acknowledged how this mischievous superstition continued to grow despite persecution. Then there's Suetonius, another Roman historian who wrote about disturbances in Rome caused by the followers of Christus. This is widely believed to be a reference to Christ. Now, think about this. These Roman historians provide independent, factual evidence of Jesus' life and the early Christian movement. They weren't writing to spread the gospel, they were simply recording history. Yet their accounts align with what we know from Scripture, reinforcing that Jesus was not just a myth, but a real person who left an undeniable mark on history. Next, let's turn to Flavius Josephus, a Jewish historian who lived shortly after Jesus' time. Josephus wasn't a follower of Jesus, but he wrote about him in his work Antiquities of the Jews. In one passage, often called the Testimonium Flavianum, Josephus describes Jesus as a wise man and a doer of wondrous works. He goes on to say that Jesus gained a following and that his execution didn't stop his influence. His followers continued to spread his message. Now, it's true that later Christian scribes might have added some embellishments to this passage, but even when scholars strip those away, the core acknowledgement of Jesus' life remains authentic. Now, Josephus also mentions James, referring to him as the brother of Jesus, who is called Christ. This further supports the historical reality of Jesus and his connection to the early Christian movement. Now think about that. Josephus gives us a non-Christian perspective on Jesus. He wasn't trying to convert anyone or promote the gospel, yet his writings confirm key aspects of Jesus' life and influence, showing how his story reached even those outside his immediate circle of followers. Now let's move on to another Jewish source, the Talmud. Now the Talmud is a central text in Jewish tradition, containing centuries of teachings and discussions. Now, in the Talmud, there are several references to a figure named Yeshua, or Jesus. Now, these passages are critical of him, accusing him of leading people astray and performing sorcery. Now, at first glance, this might seem negative, but if we look closer, we see something remarkable. These accusations actually align with what we read in the New Testament. Remember how Jesus was accused of using the power of demons to perform miracles? Even his opponents couldn't deny that he was doing extraordinary things. But what this tells us is that Jesus made such an impact that he couldn't be ignored, even by those who opposed him. His life and actions left a mark so deep that they had to address him, even in criticism. Now, beyond historians, we also find references to Jesus in the writings of Greek and Roman thinkers. For example, Lucian of Samosata, a Greek satirist, mocked Christians for worshiping a crucified sage. Lucian wasn't a believer. In fact, he ridiculed the devotions that Christians had for Jesus. Yet, his writings confirm two important details. Jesus was crucified, and his followers were deeply committed to him. Then there's Mara bar Serapion. Now, he was a Syrian philosopher, and in a letter to his son, he compares Jesus to other great thinkers like Socrates and Pythagoras. He laments how unjust leaders executed these wise men and observers, and their teachings continued to influence the world long after their deaths. Now, think about that. These writers weren't Christians, yet they recognized the profound impact of Jesus' life and death. His legacy was so powerful that it resonated across cultures and belief systems, even to those who didn't follow him. Now, finally, let's turn one more place. Let's turn to Islam. Did you know that Jesus is one of the most revered prophets in the Quran? In Islamic tradition, Jesus, known as Isa, is seen as a miracle worker and a teacher of righteousness. Now, the Quran describes his virgin birth, his ability to heal the sick and raise the dead, and his role as a messenger of God. While Islam views Jesus differently than Christianity does, the respect for him is undeniable. What is truly inspiring is that Jesus' life and teachings transcend religious boundaries. His influence is so universal that even those outside Christianity hold him in high regard. So, what does this mean for us today? It means that Jesus' life wasn't just a moment in history. It was a movement that changed the world. Whether you see him as the Son of God, a prophet, or a wise teacher, his story challenges us to think deeply about our own lives. In one person, living with love, courage, and purpose could make such a profound impact. What does that say about us? How are we using our own lives to make a difference? And what kind of legacy are we building? You know, the story of Jesus, both inside and outside the Bible, reminds us of the power of one life to inspire change. His teachings call us to love, forgive, and serve others. His example challenges us to live with intention and purpose. How in the world could any sane-minded individual be against that? You know, and as you leave here today, I encourage you to carry this thought with you. What would it look like if you were to live with the kind of love and conviction that leaves a lasting impact, just like Jesus did? It could be beautiful, right? Thank you. And may this message inspire you in the days ahead. This idea came to my mind when I woke up this morning, and I just wanted to share it with you. I was thinking specifically of you when I came up with the idea, and I knew you'd be here to enjoy it with me. I hope you have a beautiful day. I'll be back tomorrow with some more insightful ideas and things to talk about with you. Okay? Take care. Talk to you tomorrow.